What's up, everybody? This is a Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Dustin. Got a good one this evening. Wally Green. This cat's got a crazy story, man. Grew up in Brooklyn in the projects, became a ping pong phenom, ended up on the U.S. team, going out to all over playing in the U.S. international team. And I think he has a crazy story about North Korea. So we're gonna talk to Wally here in just a minute. But before then, let's website. Yeah, I got a new one. I've been working on this for a whole bunch of times. You keep hearing about it. Hey, the website's coming up. Well, guess it. There it is, right there. The website's right there. SeanDustin.com. Everything that I'm doing, everything that I've done is going to be over there. And at some point, you can even book a guest spot right through that website. There's a glitch in it right now that I'm trying to have Podpage fixed, but they haven't done it yet. So SeanDustin.com, check it out. Good stuff over there. Yeah, I think that's it. And subscribe and do all the other things you need to do. So we'll be back in just a moment, and we're going to talk to Wally Green about his crazy story. There, right there.
Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
What's up, Wally?
Hey, what's going on, man? How's everything?
Good, man. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the show, brother. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you for having me.
So, where are you at right now?
I'm in New York City.
What part of the New York? I've never been to New York, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never ever.
Yeah, I'm in the Upper West.
Upper West, okay. You grew up in the Bronx, right?
No, actually, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, okay, Brooklyn. That's
Yeah.
right. I knew it started with a B. So, what was that like, man? You grew up in the projects?
Yeah. I grew up in Marlboro Projects, which is between Coney Island and Bensonhurst. Mm-hmm. And I grew up, of course, with a poor family. We used to get subsidized housing from the government. That's what the projects is. Also grew up with very narcissistic, abusive stepfather who used to beat up my mom and me as well, and systematically break us down with verbal abuse.
Yeah, man, that's rough, brother. I think that's pretty common though, man, because I know my dad was kind of like that, and there's a lot of folks that I run across that have childhood trauma issues like that, man. Sucks. How'd you handle it? How'd you deal with it?
It was crazy because, a lot of times when your stepfather or even your parents, when they're kind of like, saying stuff like, you should be dead, you're going to be in jail, you'll never be successful, everything you do, you'll be a failure. Most parents say this, they say it out of anger, but he said it, he wasn't always angry when he said it. A lot of times it was like, how was your day at school? Oh, it was okay. He goes, you're going to be a failure, right? So he would try to drill this into your head so that you would believe this eventually. And the reason he did that was because he was illiterate. So my stepfather couldn't read, he couldn't write, but he was a master carpenter. And because he had this amazing skill, he was able to get by in life, right? Because he was the best of the best at what he did. But yeah, as a kid, it was really hard. So I had to find outlets for it. One was I started in a gang very early age. By 13, I already owned 6 guns at 13. And the other half was sports. So I had the gang life and then I had sports. And what the gang life did, the gang life gave me a sense of, what family might be, right? When I was doing the gang stuff, that was my family. You know, those were the people who always said to me, "Oh, don't worry, we got your back. You know, we got your back." You know, and the sports is what numbed me to what was going on at home, right? So, you know, you get up early in the morning, you go to school, you practice, you go through the whole school day. Then after school, you practice again. By that time, you're completely exhausted, and you go home, and you know, you're kind of numb to what's going on. So I needed both those things in my life.
So did all of your peers in the gang, did they sort of have similar lives at home as yourself? Or experience, you know?
Yeah, pretty much, because we're all from the same projects. So I don't know anyone who was part of it that had like the good life.
Yeah.
Like everybody was going through some crazy stuff, whether it was with their parents or school or whatever.
So in your sports outlets, what did you like? When did you find ping pong? When did that come into the picture? Was that somewhere, you know, you said 13, you'd owned 16 or
17.
6 guns by then.
Ping pong wasn't even a thing. Like I
Yeah.
hated ping pong. Like they had it in my school, and I used to make fun of the kids playing because, you know, I played football as well. So when I would go through the lunchroom we go through the lunchroom to the football field, I would see kids playing ping pong, and I would make fun of these kids. And I'd be like, "Look at these kids with short shorts and a stick." I really used to make fun of kids playing ping pong. I was like, what kind of sport is this? It's not even a sport. So I actually hated this sport in school. I actually hated the sport. I never liked the sport, but it was the sport that actually, you know, saved my life.
Yeah. So you were playing football. Was that your thing?
Every sport.
Every
I
sport?
played every single sport that I could play, because the more sports I played, the less time I could spend at home.
Yeah.
Every
Makes
time there was
sense.
a sport that came up, I played it. If it was football, I was on the football team. I was on the basketball team. I was on the wrestling team. I was on the tennis team. I was on the volleyball team. Every sport that I could play that could numb the pain of the abuse that was going at home, I just joined every sport, every single thing. And it wasn't no ping pong team. It was just a bunch of kids playing ping pong in a lunchroom.
Yeah. I didn't start seeing ping pong tables. I mean, I had a friend here and there that would have one at their house, but I mean, I didn't really start playing ping pong until I went to the boys ranch and got locked up. You know, they always had ping pong tables at the, you know, facilities and stuff. So at 17, you got introduced to ping pong by who? A mentor or?
No. So the way I got introduced to ping pong is really crazy. I was shooting pool, right? So it was during the break of sports, and I started shooting pool. And I was at a pool hall, and I got upset because I thought I was good at pool, and I really wasn't. I got angry, took my pool stick, hit it on the table. The pool stick shattered. And then I looked to my left, and I saw kids playing ping pong. And, you know, I was a kid that had to blame everyone for what happened to me. So something happened to me, I blamed everyone. And the perfect person to blame was the kids playing ping pong, the sport that I really couldn't stand. So I go over to the kid and I says, "Hey, give me that paddle. I want to get a hit." And the kid said, "You play this?" And I was like, "No, I don't play this. Just give me the paddle." So the kid gives me the paddle, right? He's scared to death. And he hits the ball at me. And when I go to hit, he hits the ball. I'm trying to hit him in the face with the ball. Like, this was the plan. He hits the ball to me. I hit him in the face with the ball. And that was the plan. But because I sucked at it, he hit the ball to me. I swing as hard as I can to hit him in the face with the ball. The ball hits the table. And then the kid goes, "Oh, my God. Wow, that was a great shot. That's amazing." He's like, "Man, you should go check out this ping pong club." And I was like, "What do you mean ping pong club?" He's like, "Yeah, man, there's like pros there." And I said, "What do you mean? There's an actual place where people get together and play this? Like, there's no way that this is even in the slightest possible. There's no way." And that was like, you know, at that time, I was like, this is crazy. And I couldn't believe it. But, you know, eventually the athlete in me was like, maybe there is a place where there's people really playing seriously, right?
Yeah.
So I go down to this place. I go to this place and I walk in, right? And there's people shooting pool. It's a huge pool hall, but it's also half ping pong, right? So there's like maybe 8, 9 tables there. And I see people, boom, boom, hitting balls, boom, bam, 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 hitting balls. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. And the craziest thing about it was the people who were playing were black. And I was like, wait a minute, black people play this? Like, I thought only Asians played ping pong.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was surprised. I was like, what the hell? Black people actually play this? And that was when I first got interested in the sport.
Yeah, I didn't know that ping pong was a thing until I saw Forrest Gump.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, like you said, and he went to China, and then there was a bunch of Asian people playing. And I've seen Asian people actually play, and they hold their paddles kind of weird.
Oh, the penhole.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes. But they don't hold it like that anymore.
No,
like most of the Asians now hold the paddle shake hand, which is like this.
Mm-hmm.
I just did a funny TikTok video about the different grips, right? Mm-hmm. So I call it the only 4 grips, right? The first grip is shake hand, most commonly used in the world by everyone. The second grip is the penhold, right? Most commonly used by the Asians, but most of the Asians now use shake hand. Mm-hmm. The third grip is C-Miller grip, which is like this, right? And this was created by an American Olympian, Danny C-Miller, in the 1970s. And then the fourth one is called prison. So prison. I call it prison. And the prison grip is like this. And the reason why the prison grip is like this is because they take the handle. You can't have the handle on when you're in prison because you can use it as a shank. Those are the 4 different styles.
Okay. That makes sense. And yes, I remember there were, although the prison I was in, they had the whole thing, but that was in the federal joint. So
Fed is fine.
There's a little more lenient there. All right, so you get involved in this. So you learn this at this pool hall. They tell you to go down there, and you start seeing this, and you're like, "Whoa, this is crazy!" You see, probably you imagine the game is going pretty fast, right?
Yeah. It was crazy.
And so, what do you do? Do you go? You say, "I want to play this," you know? So do you think that you're like, "Oh, I could do this shit"?
Exactly. That was the first thought. The first thing was like, I could do this. You're crazy. But what happened was nobody would play with me, right? Because no one knew who I was, and I wasn't good enough to play with them. So no one would play with me at all, right? And then I met a guy. Well, actually, before I met a guy, this old guy used to play with me. He was like 70, and he used to smoke me all the time, badly. And, I'm a super athlete. I'm like, how the hell am I losing to some guy who's like 70 years old? So that made me want to play more because I was like, there's no way. I'm a seasoned athlete. I'm losing to a 70-year-old. But then eventually I met a guy randomly there who came in, and the guy asked me, he goes, "Hey, do you have a partner?" And I said, "No." And he says, "Well, I'll pay you $20 to play with me." And I said, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, to be my hitting partner," because he's from out of town. So every time he comes, he has a hitting partner to hit. And, I wasn't bad. Like, I could hit forehands and stuff like that, right? So he would pay me $20 every time we would hit, and we used to talk a lot. I became a little bit close with him. Spoke about the things that I was going through sometimes, and for him it was all like a TV show, right? Because if you don't know anyone who's kind of lived that life, then it is like a TV show, right? Like there's no way to understand how a 13-year-old kid has guns. Right. But the reality of it is that it happens all the time. It's nothing that's actually shocking. Right. So that was kind of the start of the whole ping pong thing.
Okay. So how do you get good enough to end up on the international US team?
Well, so
because that's got to be difficult to do.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. So the same guy, one day I went to the club to go play with him, and a 22 fell out of my bag in front of him. And he saw the 22 and he looked at me. And then the first thing I said is, I got to go. Like, I didn't want to stay around. I don't know if he's going to call the police, And so I just left. And I figured, oh, man, there goes my $20, right? He's never going to talk to me again. I mean, I wouldn't talk to me again if I came to play with myself and gun fell out of my bag. So I figured, there goes the money. That's it. He calls me 2 days later. He says, "Hey, are we still playing?" And I'm like, "What? Okay." So I go meet him again, and we start to play. He says, "I want to invite you to my home." And I thought that was weird because why would you invite, this kid who a gun fell out of his bag to your home? And his home wasn't in like New York City. It was near Hunter Mountain, which is like 2.5 hours away in the woods. Right? Which is kind of just strange. But,
yeah, I would be thinking something else.
Right, exactly. And I was like, oh, whatever. So I wind up going and I meet his family, and everyone's at the table and they're all eating, together and passing food together and doing what family does. And I think he was just trying to give me a sense of what real family was. And then he says, hey, I really want to help you. I'm going to pay for you to go to Germany to learn ping pong. And that's how I started. He paid for me to go to Germany. And that was the first time I ever left, my circle. I went to a totally different country.
What was that like when you went to the house and you seen him sitting around and having, dinner like a family, like you see on TV, right?
Yeah.
What was that like for you, man? What did that feel like?
It was weird. I don't know if it made me angry or it made me sad, but it was really weird. It was like, what the hell? Like, and then it made me think of why this guy's bringing me here even more. Like, what he's trying to, like the first
rub it in my face, trying to rub this shit in my face.
Listen, that's what I thought it was. Like he had this huge house in the middle of nowhere. He had a pool table that was like a ping pong table. He had a game room, and I was like, "What the hell is this dude trying to do?" Right? But eventually, I figured out, he was actually trying to help.
So he saw some potential in you, in the sport, and wanted to help you go and hone it, basically, right? Go and
right. Well, because he knew that all the stuff that I had been telling him, seeing that 22 was the puzzle piece, the last puzzle piece. And then he knew that I was either going to be wind up dead or in jail. So he had the means to help. And and he did.
That's cool, man. Not a lot of people get that opportunity. So kudos to that dude. Are you still in touch with him? Do you talk to him today still?
So I lost touch with him like many years ago. There was a war in Israel, and we lost the communication. And then the ping pong thing started really taking off for me. So I got busy just like traveling the whole world. And then eventually I forgot his name. It took me years. I can't remember his name. It took me years. And then during I was doing Steph Curry's podcast, and in the middle of it, I was like, "Oh my God!" And he goes, "What?" He goes, "What?" I said, "I just remembered the name of the guy because I've been trying to remember this name of this guy forever." And the name came, and it came as Alex, but Alex wasn't the name. Later on, it was Alec, and then okay. I remembered his name. But yeah, we tried really hard to find him because we made this documentary some years ago, and we found the school, we found the teacher, the coach that I learned with, but they don't keep the records that long. So someone said he's an angel, and maybe I should stop looking.
Yeah, they are out there. I heard. That's crazy though. So, interesting. All right, so you go to Germany. You're learning, right? And what's it like in Germany? Obviously, you probably can't speak the language.
No, but I didn't have to because this school, everyone can speak English.
Oh, okay. So is English in other countries? Is pretty much everybody can speak English?
I mean, yeah. In most countries, everyone speaks English. The only problem is that they don't get to practice English, right? So in the countries where they're not really speaking, they learn it in school. But after school, they're going to hang out with their friends, with their parents. And at that point, they're not really speaking English. But in
makes sense.
In this school, most people spoke English.
And so was it a school for just ping pong, or was it a school for education too?
No, well, it was a sports school. So there's more than one sport there. So it's not just ping pong. It's ping pong, basketball, there's some martial arts. It's like different sports. But the kids who are going to the school, they live there.
Okay.
And their curriculum is mostly the sport. And then the education is second. So these are the future pro athletes, the future Olympians.
So Nike does that, don't they? Like they do it for tennis. They do
Tennis,
it for
yeah. They have that in I think it's in Florida.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
like a concubine of a bunch of
Yeah,
different up and coming. You know what I mean? They're like investing in these
yes, yeah.
future stars.
And the kids live there, right? So they take you away from your parents, and they put you in this school where you're going to focus every single day is going to be training, followed by a little bit of education.
So what sports did you start out? Did you just do ping pong, or did you try to play basketball, football?
So my first sport was basketball.
Okay.
Basketball was my first sport. That was a sport I was really good at. I was MVP 3 times, and I was short, but I could jump really high. I had crazy hops. I was so fast, and I did something that no one else did.
What?
You know what that was?
What?
Play defense. So when I first started playing basketball, I started in all the Catholic churches have their big leagues. So I started there, but I couldn't make the traveling team. I was only making the house team, right? And then when I made the traveling team, finally, I was riding the bench. Like I would ride the bench the whole game, and then the coach would put me in at like 1 minute left. And I'd be tight. I'd be so tight. Right?
Yeah.
And then, I figured out, what can I do to make me stand out? That, I'm not a big 3-point shooter. I was really good at driving, posting. And I say, you know what? I'm going to start playing defense. So I started just playing defense. So I actually asked the coach if we could do 1-3-1 zone. And that's where the top guard follows the ball everywhere. He follows it from the top of the key to the bottom of the key to the top of the key to the bottom of the key. And I would play the most insane defense. And that's how I started, from playing defense. But then I stopped growing. And the position that I was, at that time I started playing forward, small forward, and in the position people were getting too big. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. So I gave up that dream real quick.
And then you went into ping pong?
Nope. Then football,
what did you do next?
Basketball. Ping pong was the last sport that I ever played. Right.
Okay.
So I played football, also was too small. Played running back, was good in high school, was good in, for a young kid, but I didn't grow. So I played tennis. I didn't love it. I was good at it, but I didn't love it. Wrestling, I did love. Wrestling, I loved a lot. Like I was, oh my God. But then one year, one of my teammates got paralyzed, and then the school just shut it down. And that was the end of that.
He got paralyzed from wrestling?
Yeah. So there's a move where you grab the guy from the front and you bring him back, but it's like a suplex, but it's not supposed to be a suplex. This move is well calculated. You're supposed to pick him up and place him down. But what the guy did was he literally suplexed my friend. Just brought him, bam, right on his head. And then he's paralyzed from the neck down. Yeah. Like for... I think, if I remember, for like 8 months. And then 8 months he came out of it, but they say he can never play sports again.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
So when does this trip to, what is it, North Korea? You ended up in North Korea playing for the international team in the U.S. I know you got a crazy story about being stuck there.
Oh man!
Or sneaking out or some crazy shit.
So the North Korea thing was pretty crazy because what happened was the year before I was on the Steve Harvey show. So I did a Steve Harvey show, and that had me pumped up for the next year. And I was like, "What crazy thing can I do this year?" And by this time, I already made a name for myself in the sport. I was playing for the U.S. team everywhere. I was sort of like the Dennis Rodman of ping pong. Right. Yeah, so I was a Dennis Rodman of ping pong, and I was like the bad boy of ping pong, because ping pong was like this nice kind of quiet sport, like how tennis used to be back in the day, right? That's what ping pong pretty much is. And I came out with the ghetto. Like I would make a point, I'd be like, "That's it, baby, come on!" I'd be talking. People were like, "What's wrong with this guy?" And people thought I was like legit crazy.
I can see that, man. You go to a different country, man,
going,
talking shit.
People are like, this guy's nuts. So, I made a name for myself. And then I was trying to think, what big thing I can do this year. So I'm looking through all the tournaments for the whole year. I'm going through them, and I see China, Japan, Korea. I'm going to do that. Germany, I'm going to do that one too. Brazil, I'm doing that. Yeah, all of that. Wow. And then I see Pyongyang. And I'm like, what? Pyongyang? What do you mean by Pyongyang? Wait, Pyongyang, North Korea. And I was like, no way, I got to go to North Korea. And you have to remember, Dennis Rodman actually had just came back from North Korea during that time.
I remember that. He liked him. Kim Jong liked him.
Yo, listen, man. I tell you, I didn't get the Kim Jong Un treatment. I didn't get to meet him. I actually asked my guide. I was like, hey, Dennis Rodman was here, and he met the great leader. I said, I want to meet the great leader. She said, oh, no. You have to be received. I said, received? What do you mean received? So apparently I wasn't received, so I couldn't meet the great leader.
Oh, no. What does received mean?
I guess he has to ask for you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. So you go to North Korea, right? You're there, you're playing ping pong. What kind of trouble you get yourself into?
So since we're going to talk about a little trouble, we can't really talk about. I'm going to tell you a little. Hold on one second. Let me bend down and get this. I can tell you a little story. So, I usually when I travel a lot, sometimes I get into a lot of trouble, because I always want to see like how far I can push things, just to learn what's going on, and so I never met real brainwashed people in my life. We've all met a ton of ignorant people, but I don't think many people have met completely brainwashed people, right? And so I started this conversation with my guide. I wanted to know, what was the extent of the brainwashing in North Korea? So I tell my guide, I says, hey, you guys like me, but why you don't like foreigners, right? Now, I don't know if they like me or not. I'm just saying this because I don't want to, it's very dangerous there. Like, you could get snatched up real quick, and it's serious. So I don't want to let them think that I'm trying to start anything. And then she goes, no, we don't. She goes, we don't hate foreigners. We don't want the Western influence in our country, right? And I say, okay, but every country in the world needs Western influence, right? If you want to get to the next level, especially the smaller countries, you take something from this country, take something from that country, and that's how you get ahead. And she said, that's not true. Everything in our country was done by our great leader. And our country is great and everything done by him. And I said, okay, but your great leader has Western influence, right? And she says, and she goes, that's not true, right? And I say, okay, so at the point of right now, this is like a bright yellow. So we're in a bright yellow, right? Red being the most dangerous, but we're in a bright yellow because now I'm telling her that your great leader has Western influence, corrupting the minds of citizens in North Korea is punishable by 15 years hard labor. Yeah, exactly. So it's actually not, it's not a joke. And so she goes, that is not true. Our great leader has no Western influence. And I say, he does have Western influence. I say, what about basketball? Basketball's Western. She goes, no, our great leader created basketball.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Like how can, now, if you had any common sense, the great leader was what, 28? How could he create basketball when he created it? He's like 9, 8? Like it doesn't even make sense, right? But I wanted to get past that one and go to another one, right? Because now I'm like, okay, this girl's completely lost her mind. Mm-hmm. So then I go, okay. I says to her, your great leader speaks English very well, right? And she goes, yes. I says, your great leader studied outside of North Korea. She said, that's not true. I said, it is true. She said, no, it's not. I said, and now at this point now, because you know when you talk to people, right? And then they start to piss you off because they're just stupid, right? And now I'm getting pissed off now. And I'm forgetting the whole point of why I'm there, right? So I go to her. It is true. He studied in Switzerland. And she said, that is not true. I said, yes. I said, everyone in the world knows this. And I'm getting a little like, edgy. And she goes, that is not true. And I said, oh my God, you know what? You're so right. Oh man, you are so right. It's the Cuban president. I don't even know the fucking Cuban president. But I had to say that because when she raised her voice, she could easily go to her superiors and tell them. And if she did that, like I'm telling you, I would go to my hotel room and that night, some people would come to get me and I wouldn't be here talking to you. I'd probably still be there. And the funny thing about it is, it's no joke. It's crazy. It's crazy because these things are funny, but these things will happen to you. Like you will be taken out of your hotel room and people are not going to see you for a long time.
So what's the craziest place you've been in, like, country-wise?
North Korea, by far. You know what? I tell people, especially in my posts, and I get people arguing with me all the time, right? Because everyone thinks they know something without no experience. And I tell people, in my posts, I say, I went to the number one most dangerous country in the world. I use number one on purpose. I don't have to say, I could say I went to the most dangerous country in the world. But there's a viral video of me hugging a North Korean, right? And I say I went to the number one most dangerous country in the world to hug a North Korean, right? And people say, oh, it's not the most dangerous country in the world. There are other countries more dangerous than North Korea, right? But the thing is, the reason why it's the most dangerous country in the world is a couple of reasons. First, you have no Wi-Fi when you're there. So as soon as you get there, there's no Wi-Fi for you. There's no cell phone service for you. So immediately you're cut off from the rest of the world. That's it. Once you arrive there, you have no contact. There's no way for you to contact someone and say, hey, I'm here safe. Doesn't exist. Now, you ready for the third one? Everyone associates danger with being kidnapped, being killed. Yeah, that's dangerous. That's not the only dangerous thing. Though all those places, like someone says, oh, Syria is more dangerous. Oh, people get kidnapped. Then guess what? Get on a plane, get the hell out, right? Now, I'm going to tell you why North Korea is the most dangerous. The reason why is when they check into the hotel, they take your passport, right? So you don't even have a passport. You have no passport. So you have no Wi-Fi, no cell phone, no passport. How are you going to get out? You can't get out. You can't leave your hotel to go anywhere. You cannot even walk across the street. There's nothing that you can do without your guide. And if something goes, let's say America had some beef with North Korea, guess what? How you going to get out? You ain't got no passport, right? It's no chance. That's what makes it the most dangerous country in the world.
Well, glad you got out.
Yeah.
So how long ago was that you did?
This was 2000, I think 2015.
2015. Okay.
Yeah, 2015. It says shortly after Dennis Rodman came back.
So what are you doing now? Were you able to turn that into in that success and popularity into some career or anything that transpired from that?
Yeah. Right now, I have a bunch of things going on. I have a film company, which I can't say the name yet. They're doing a movie on my life story, featured film. So we've been talking for 1 year. And a month ago, we decided we're going to move forward. So that, I'm co-founder of a company called Spin, which is a ping pong bar, nightclub, and restaurant, which is also co-founded by the actress Susan Sarandon.
Oh, okay.
So our clubs are pretty popular. We have 9 of them across the country. We have one new one coming, going to be the most incredible one in Times Square. So, yeah.
Yeah, I seen Susan. She was really involved in who's that lawyer that got in trouble, and she was doing some activism for him. Donziger.
Oh, yes.
I think that was one of her friends or someone she knows. Yeah. So that's really cool, man. So you got that going on. That would be interesting to go. I probably would play if I was I don't drink, but if I went to a bar, I would probably play ping pong if they had it.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, if you think about it, it's super fun, and it's also in our setting, it's also the best first date place. It's the best first date. I tell everyone, if you have a first date, is the first time you're going out with this girl and you're trying to do something, just come to my club, right? Because if you tell, our club, it's not a gym, right? When you walk in there, you're like, oh shit, this is lit, right? Because it's very elegant. The Times Square one's going to be crazy. So when you bring a girl there, ping pong doesn't say anything about sex, says nothing about that. It's if you tell a girl, hey, let's go play some ping pong, have some drinks, eat some food, right? What girl's going to tell you, no, I'm not going to do that? Every girl's going to say, okay, let's go, because it's harmless. But on a side note, there's a bar, a big bar, and there's a lot of drinks there. So now you're playing ping pong, you're playing drinks. You know what I'm saying?
Getting a little loose.
Yeah, you're perfect.
And comfortable. Getting comfortable. Just don't slam on her.
No. Listen, I see some guys.
I used to hate that, man. I used to hate that. That's the part of ping pong I didn't like, because I couldn't slam like people would slam on me, right?
Right.
And I would try to do it, and I never. And I would always miss or hit the table or do something or hit my knuckles on the table.
I see some guys coming in there like with girls, and some of them just be slamming on the girls like crazy, bro. And I'd be like, damn, bro, like, are you trying to get some tonight or not? What are you doing?
Warming up. I'm warmed up, man.
But then when I see that, I'll take out I have like this old iPhone 6 that I play with, and I'll take out the phone and I'll play them in front of the girls and smoke them. And then they'll be embarrassed as hell.
That's funny. All right, well, that's some good stuff right there. It's always cool when you can turn something that you really enjoy doing into a business, hobby, whatever it is, and you'll love it that much more.
Yeah. Like I always tell people, I never feel like I'm working.
Cool.
Right? It's always fun for me.
Yeah. Anything else, like you got out of the projects? The stepdad still around, or did he take off, or
he died?
All right. Your mom's still around?
My mom passed away about maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay, sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, but I didn't have a relationship with her.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a time where things got really, really ugly, and yeah, and it was a bad day. It could have been a worse day. I could have been in jail for life, but I was I used my head that time and listened to the thing that was talking to me on my shoulder, and I walked away. But yeah.
Well, that's a good thing, man. You got siblings?
All stepbrothers and stepsisters. I don't talk to them.
Okay, so it's just you out here, huh?
Yeah, man.
You against the world.
That's how I love it. Only way to win.
I know how you feel, man. I feel the same way. It's me and my dog.
Yeah, his best friend. But listen. People have the notion that you need to have all these millions of people around you. I disagree with that, man. I think you have your solid core, few people that you really trust, right? And everyone's just cool, right? And you focus on you focus on making yourself better and getting yourself to the next level.
No, for sure. I've said this actually last week. I was walking and talking, and somebody was overhearing my conversation, and they were like, that's the best quote I've heard this week so far. But it was, the more people that you have in your circle, right? The more people you have around you, the more of other people's bullshit you're going to have to deal with. Right? Their baggage, their drama, their, got this going on. And if, the closer you are with these people, inevitably you get sucked into their shit. Right.
Right.
And I cause enough of my own shit in my own life, right? I don't need the extra added, of other people's stuff, to pile on top of it. So I keep my circle super small, man. I only got one friend, right? One friend. And I've got a lot of acquaintances and, work and this and that. But I mean, like people that I hang out with and I can count on if I need something, I can call this person, just one person, man.
Right.
And, sometimes I'm like, do I feel lonely because I don't have a whole bunch of friends like I used to? Because I used to have a shitload of friends, man. I used to have people around all the time, man. You just couldn't shake them off, right?
Right.
And then I went to prison, and then everything changed. I didn't want nobody around me.
No. I feel you. I also used to have always a lot of people around me, a lot of friends, around me as well. But now, I kind of like it this way. It's because I'm responsible for myself, and that's easy, right? Being responsible for yourself is easy.
Yep. Yeah, until you get to get kids and get other things that you got to be responsible for, then it's like, oh shit, I can't not go to work today. I got to make some money. I got to pay for them damn kids.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, man. Well, and Wally, was great talking to you. Oh, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about the experience as your keynote at PodFest. Is it your first keynote that you've done?
First keynote at PodFest that I've done.
But you've done keynote speeches before?
Oh yeah, I'm a TEDx speaker.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I've done a TEDx. I've done a bunch of keynotes, but I do them in I don't know. I call it untraditional kind of way. I don't know the name keynote. I don't know. I don't like that name. I just think
I don't like it either.
I just think I'm going to talk. When I say keynote, I'm like, keynote. Whoa, what does that mean? No, I gotta press that stupid button thing. Like I never do the clicker. Even in my TEDx talk, they were like, yeah, well, you have to send us a PowerPoint. I say, bro, I'm a creator. I don't use freaking PowerPoint. Like, and it's like, don't worry, just send us the pictures. We'll do it for you. So I sent them some pictures, and they created this PowerPoint thing. And they said, oh, they sent it back to me. I said, what do you want me to do with that? And they said, oh, you're going to use it during your talk. I said, during my talk and do what? They said, you're going to click. I said, I'm not clicking. I said, listen, I'm not clicking anything. I said, the last thing I want to do, and it's funny because my TEDx was my first public speaking thing, right? And I was like, the
holy shit, are you kidding me? Your first time public speaking was a TEDx.
And do you know when it was? In April. So it's brand new.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be clicking and trying to talk at the same time. So I said, I'm not clicking. I said, you can give it to somebody. They can click however they want, but I'm not going to click. I said, it's not happening. So they gave it to the guy who was handling the audio, and he clicked for me.
Oh, that's funny.
It was so funny. Yeah. It was funny.
I can't believe your first public speaking engagement was a TEDx.
And
how'd you land that?
So I got asked 3 times to do TEDx, and I said no. The first 2 times I said no. So what happened was I had a 2-page article in New York Times about me. 2 full insane pages like this. So Tiger Woods' page was about that big, like about that size. My page was boom and boom.
Wow.
And the next 2 big ones. And I was interviewed for 4 days. It was a 4-day interview, really intense, in location, just really crazy interview. And they put that I gave talks to schools because I do, I talk to schools about gun violence and stuff like that, and gangs and stuff like that. And my TEDx hadn't come out yet, but they put it in ahead of time because my TEDx came out after after the New York Times article, and they said that I also TEDx speaker. So for some reason, everyone, they look at the New York Times, and boom, I just started getting flooded with all kinds of speaking engagements. Like,
wow. And
the craziest one, I'll tell you the craziest one. The craziest one I ever got was the company called Reckitt. I don't know if you know it. It's a conglomerate. They own like Mucinex, Durex, Lysol. They own like 40. It's one of those bigger companies that own like 40 companies under them.
Mm-hmm.
And they was like, yeah, we want you to come to speak at our summit. I was like, what? What do you mean? Just come speak. Speak what? what the hell? Right? And I was like, and I was like, no, this is crazy. And I didn't even know what and it's like, what's your rate? Rate? I don't even know what the rate is for that. So I started Googling stuff and I started trying to figure out
like 10,000.
And listen, so I saw that, but I was like, no, there's no way there's 10,000. It's impossible. So I was like, these prices are crazy. So I found an article which shows you how much money you should ask for depending on your level and how to ask. And it was very helpful. And so, but I was still nervous and I didn't know. So I reached out to the person who wrote the article, right? And I reached out to her. I said, hey, listen, I just saw your article. It's amazing. Can you please call me? And she called me and she says, oh my God, I just read your New York Times article. And that person, crazy. And that person was Dory Clark. So Dory Clark is the top 50 businesswoman in the entire world.
Oh, shit.
Top 50 in the world. And this is what she does for a living. So she's telling me, she was teaching me, this is what you asked for. And she was like, for this kind of job, it's 10K. I said, what are you, crazy? I said, I'm not going to ask people to pay me 10K to speak for 40 minutes. I said, that doesn't even make sense. I was like, I wouldn't pay myself 10K to speak 40 minutes. What? And she goes, if you don't ask them for 10K, they're going to think you're an amateur and they won't hire you anyway. And I was like, ooh, really? I was like, all right. So I asked for 10K, got paid 8. And I still killed it because she gave me a piece of information, which now makes me love to do public speaking. Now I love it. She said that people hire you for a reason. She said people will hire you to speak. It's not that they know exactly who you are. They know your story. That's why they hire you to speak. They don't hire you to speak to make stuff up, right? There's a reason they hire you. And she said, you know your story. You are always going to use your story for every speaking gig that you do. No matter what you do, you're going to use your story. And what you're going to do is that you're going to tailor your story to the theme of whatever they want you to speak about. And I was like, oh, okay, I could do that. I know. I mean, I've told my story 50 million times. I know how to do that. And that's what I did. I went to this summit, spoke to some sales execs and killed it. Killed it. Like, I took into consideration what their themes were, how it related to my story. And all of this was on the fly. So I didn't plan. I didn't practice this, even with my TEDx talk. Like, I didn't practice it. And every time I speak, I first spoke with the Podfest stuff. I spoke at Podfest NYC. And then someone came up to me who was part of New York Speakers Association. And she told me, she goes, do you do this often? And I was like, no, I did my first TEDx talk in April. And she said, wow, she said, you're so natural and you have all the things that we try to teach people. You have them naturally. And I was like, oh, and I didn't think nothing of it. Then I did the Podfest, the closing keynote speech. And I had people crying. People were like, because I'm always paying attention to the people in the front. There's a lot of people there. People were like in tears. And the lady came up to me from NSA, the National Speakers Association. And she said, man, she goes, you're just as good as the greats of speakers, is what she told me. Yeah, and I can see why, because when I speak from my heart and I speak what I'm passionate about, and I'm a really good storyteller, and I know how to make you feel what I went through. I know how to put you in the same situation that I was. So when I'm giving these talks, people feel like they're me. They don't feel like they're watching me talk. I make them feel like they are me, hearing these things that I was hearing or feeling these things that I was feeling. So the Podfest one killed it also. Yeah. So now it's my new thing, man. I love public speaking. I love talking to kids. Kids is my most favorite thing. Like, going in there and talking to these kids. I love that too.
Well, that's awesome, man. Good for you. And I'm glad to see that you're doing some good out there in the community as well, man. We always need that because our most precious commodity are these kids, man.
Yeah.
And that and time. But, without without the kids, man, and raising them right. And, it takes a village, and that's true, man. I've got a 5-year-old, and, they're little sponges, man. They suck up everything, all this information, you know what I mean? And it's like, Jesus, you got to really be careful what you're, what you're letting them see. And that it's like a plant, it's like you're watering it and fertilizing it and, just making it grow and trying to hope that you don't screw it up. That's the most important thing. And so, yeah, man, it's good that you're doing that. And, maybe when I get my nonprofit off the ground, because I'm doing the same thing. I mean, if I get it to that point, man, I'll definitely reach out to you for something like that. Cause I'm trying to get to the kids too, man.
Yeah. I think it's real. It's real important because a lot of these kids, they don't really have an outlet, so I can deeply understand, especially growing up in the projects. The only thing is the projects. Mom and dad is into some shit already, and you don't know anything but that. And you need people who's been through it to talk to them. A lot of time they want to send these kids to the psychologist or freaking psychiatric, whatever. My mom tried to send me to a psychotherapist. The first thing I told the psychotherapist, I says, "Have you ever seen a gun?" He said, "No." I said, "You ever had a gun put to your head?" He said, "No." I said, "Why the fuck am I here?" That's what I said. Why am I here? What are you going to possibly tell me from your notebook that you learned about? Like, I don't mean to shit on those people, but in real life, like for me, what you learned in school to me is meaningless. It really is. Like, there's a guy that I play another sport pro called paddle tennis. And this guy, he's a psychologist, a psychosociologist, and works with kids. And we argue all the time. I'm like, bro, listen, you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. Everything you learned from a book. You learned from a book. I say, what can you possibly tell me that makes any sense? I say, you didn't experience anything in your life. Everything is from this notebook, what they taught you in school. I said, it doesn't work like that, bro. If you don't have experience in that lifestyle, you don't have experience with those people, you've never been part of it, there's no way that you can possibly help someone. But only thing you can do is give meaningless advice based off of what you learned in school. So those things make me crazy. So I always tell people, like, if you've been through stuff and now you're doing good in your life, you need to go back and you need to help those kids, because you're the only one they're going to listen to, because they ain't going to listen to that guy for sure.
It works the same with people that have incarcerated folks, right?
Right.
People that have been to prison, and no one's going to listen to. And I had the same experience too when I was going through that in a group home situation when I was younger. And same thing, there were some folks, that were actually addicts and I could relate to, that have became counselors, but the ones that were the book studied ones, I was just like, I was so mean, you know what I mean? Just like the same thing that with you. I'm just like, what? You can, I don't know. No.
And then you go back to your beautiful home with your picket fence, and I'm going back to the craziness, right?
You wash the ghetto off of you, right, and you go back to you. Yeah, exactly. Because you were slumming it all day, trying to help the folks that need help.
Right.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah, but whatever. We need those people too. Those people need a place in this society as well, and just not at my table, but there's a table for them somewhere.
Exactly.
But yeah. All right, man. Wally, I got to get going. It was good to have you on the show, brother. And
Appreciate it.
I love all the stuff that you're doing. And I'm definitely want to check back in with you after you get these things up and going, these ping pong nightclubs, man. That sounds like a super interesting thing. And since it's happening in New York,
they're
already up?
We have 9 of them.
You have 9 of them?
9, yeah.
So is this something that you're hoping is going to catch on catch on from the West Coast and move, or from the East Coast and move west?
No. They're not all in New York, right? So they're across the country. So Philly, Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, Washington, D.C. We have the New York one. We have one coming in Times Square soon. Yeah.
Hey, email me all of your like stuff so I can throw those in the links. You know what I mean? Like the main email or the main website for those clubs. Okay. That way I can throw that in there. So if anybody out there listening and you're interested in a ping pong nightclub, they have one in San Francisco. I'm gonna have to check that out. Yeah. I'm gonna take my girl there.
Wait, are you in San Francisco?
I'm close.
Oh man, yeah. Yo, when you go there, before you go there, let me know when you're going, so I can call and book the table for you. And then
okay.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, you should let me know when you're going.
Okay, for sure. No, I'll do that, man. That'll be interesting.
It's definitely gonna be a good date with your girl. I'm telling you. All right. It's gonna be fun, but don't let her beat you at ping pong because you're never gonna live it down. I'm telling you.
All right, and everybody, if you want to catch Wally on Instagram, his Insta handle is at Wally Green NYC. That's at Wally WALLY Green GREEN NYC on Insta. Go and hit him up over there. All right, brother. I appreciate you.
Man, appreciate you.
All right, man.
Later.
See ya.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved. To connect to the show, book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/nowhere to go but up. On Instagram at Nowhere to Go But Up Now. On Twitter at But Up Now. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast. See you next time.